All right, quick show of hands. How many of you have heard the words artificial intelligence and immediately thought of one of three things? This is overhyped, this is complicated, and this is how the Terminator robots take over. So let's get something straight right out of the starting gate. AI is not here to replace commercial brokers, but brokers who use AI are absolutely going to replace market share from those who don't. That's not science fiction, that's business. Welcome to our latest episode. I'm Loren Keim, your professor of real estate and your personal real estate coach for commercial real estate. And today is about turning you into a computer programmer. Nobody here needs to learn code. Nobody's building robots, and no one is installing a microchip in your brain, although some of you might benefit from better memory on follow-ups. Now, today is about leverage, how we use AI to work faster, to think smarter, to serve clients better, and ultimately to close more transactions. So that's why I called this session From Buzzword to Business Weapon. Because right now, AI is either a shiny object that people talk about or a competitive tool that's quietly making money. And I would prefer we choose the second one. And by the end of this first session, my goal is simple. I want to shift the mindset in this room from AI is scary to AI is leverage. Because when people hear AI, they think replacement. But what we should be thinking about is amplification. AI does not replace your experience. It doesn't replace your relationships. It doesn't replace your negotiating skills. It replaces the boring stuff, the repetitive stuff, the why am I still doing this manually in 2026 stuff. And that frees you up to do things machines can't do. And that's build trust, create strategy, and close deals. Now, this is not a theoretical class. We're not here to admire technology. We're here to use it, to analyze deals faster, market properties better, and find opportunities sooner. Communicate with clients smarter. If it doesn't help you to make money, save time, or improve service, it does not belong in your business. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Every commercial broker in your market has access to the same listings, same LoopNet data, same CoStar reports, same multiple listing system. So the real advantage isn't access anymore. It's execution, it's speed, it's how well you turn information into action. And AI is now part of that advantage stack. So today's the foundation. Today's session, we're going to talk about what's possible. And then the next session, we're going to roll up our sleeves and actually start using some of these tools. And then the following sessions are where we're going to talk about automation and scaling and building AI into your daily workflow, not just as a side hobby, but as part of how you operate. So here's the big idea I want you to take away and keep in your head today. AI is not here to replace commercial real estate professionals. It's here to create a new class of them, the ones who move faster, think better, and build unfair advantages. And if we do this right, you won't work harder, you're going to work smarter. And your competitors will wonder how you suddenly got so efficient. So let's start thinking about the AI-powered CRE professional. Commercial real estate has always been about insight and timing and relationships. But today, AI is transforming how we analyze deals and value assets and build strategy. The opportunity isn't just to use AI. It's to become the professional who moves faster, sees deeper, and decides smarter. Now, let me show you the difference between how most people are using AI today and what this looks like when you do it right. On the left, this is a typical use. We ask AI to write a listing description, and that's great. It helps. Summarize a property. That's fine also, it's helpful, but it's still very transactional. Now look at the right side. Same technology, but completely different outcome. Instead of just writing, it analyzes the deal, identifies risks, drafts an offering memorandum, creates an investor email, and even suggests your follow-up plan. So now it's not just helping you produce content, it's helping you move the deal forward. One is a tool, the other is a junior partner that doesn't sleep and doesn't forget to follow up. Let's take this a step further, because this is where things start to feel a little unfair. Imagine you give the system a single input. Here's a 12-unit, underperforming retail center. That's it. From that one input, an agentic system doesn't just respond, it builds. It underwrites the deal. It identifies a repositioning strategy. It suggests tenant mix improvements. It drafts an investor pitch. It creates a follow-up email sequence and recommends next steps, all from one prompt. And here's the important thing, the important shift. You didn't ask for 6 things, you only asked for 1, but the system knew what came next. This isn't faster work. It's fundamentally different work because now you're not just saving time, you're compressing the entire deal process. In our business, speed and insight are often the difference between winning and watching somebody else close it. Now, let me give you a simple way to think about where people are today with AI. There's really three levels. Level one is the dabbler. This is where most of us start. We use AI to write emails, to create social media posts, although I do have a lot of fun with that, and it feels productive. But if we're being honest, it's not really moving our business forward. It's helpful, but not transformational. When we get to that second level, we become the operator. Now we start to see real value. These are brokers using AI for underwriting, for market analysis, for marketing materials, and now we're improving decisions, saving meaningful time, and we're getting somewhere. And then level three, I'm going to call the architect. This is where everything changes. It's where we stop using AI and start designing systems like the one we just walked through, where AI thinks, sequences, executes, and supports your entire workflow. Level three brokers don't just use AI, they build leverage with it. And here's the reality. Every industry shift creates a gap between the people who adopt early and the people who eventually have to catch up. And we're watching that gap form right now. So AI has evolved in commercial real estate. We're using it for communication, for marketing to generate contents in minutes, not hours, for market analysis to analyze trends at an unprecedented scale, for deal sourcing, identifying opportunities faster and finding the people that are attached to those deals, underwriting, support due diligence with precision, and operations, streamlining our systems and our property management. And again, outperform the competition doesn't mean we're just making a little bit more money. It means responding faster, producing better materials, winning more listings, and building stronger client loyalty, which inconveniently tends to lead to market dominance. Now, here's the real opportunity sitting in front of us right now. The biggest opportunity in commercial real estate today is not a new asset class. It's not industrial, it's not medical office, it's not last mile logistics. It's leverage. Leverage of time, leverage of information, leverage of effort. In other words, doing more without working 90 hours a week and living on caffeine and regret. We've actually already lived through this movie before. Remember when email replaced fax machines? Well, I do because I'm older. Where CRMs replaced index cards and desk drawers. Where digital marketing replaced newspaper ads. At the time, every one of those changes felt optional until suddenly they weren't. And now we're watching the next shift. AI is replacing manual thinking tasks, not judgment, not relationships, not negotiation, but the repetitive mental labor that slows you down every day. The real question is not, should I use AI? That ship has already left the dock. The real question is, do I want to compete against brokers who are using it? Because that's what's happening right now. Some brokers are quietly automating follow-up, speeding up underwriting, improving marketing output, analyzing markets faster, and everybody else is wondering why they suddenly seem, well, busier and more successful. So again, here's our mission. We're going to use AI to close faster, look smarter, and scale bigger. Faster transactions, smarter insights, and bigger reach. And again, AI is not going to steal your job, but the broker who uses AI absolutely might. All right, now that everybody is appropriately motivated and slightly uncomfortable, let's talk about how this actually works. And before we go any further, I do want to clear up one misconception. There is not one AI. This isn't like choosing one CRM and hoping it works forever. Think of AI more like a toolbox. On the left-hand side, on the language side, we call them large language models. And you'll see names you're probably familiar with, like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and Copilot, Llama, Grok, DeepSeek. These tools specialize in things like writing, analysis, summarizing, research in many cases, deal support, and communication. But here's the important thing. They all do similar things, but each one has strengths in different areas, kind of like brokers, same license, but different superpowers. Now, over the next couple of sessions, I'm going to show you which ones are stronger in which areas. And of course, it's changing rapidly, month by month. Now, in the middle, on the image generation side, this is where visualization comes in. Tools like Midjourney and Leonardo and Runway, DALL-E, Artbreeder, and Gemini's image tools. These are what power conceptual redevelopment visuals, before and after renderings, market imagery, tenant improvement mockups. And finally, on the right-hand side, I only have one listed here, but there are many of them. Research. Tools like Perplexity AI combine search engines with AI reasoning. Instead of just giving you links, they give you summarized answers with resources. And through this program, we're also going to look at some tools like Notebook LM, which is a really cool tool. Now, here's the key takeaway. You do not need to master all of these. You don't need 5 platforms open at once. What you need is one good large language tool, one visualization tool, and at least one research tool to start. And in the next sessions, we're not going to just talk about these, we're going to use them. Some live demos, some real commercial examples, and workflows that you can apply immediately. So don't worry about memorizing tool names today. What really matters is understanding what's possible and then learning how to apply it to your personal real estate practice. Now, one thing I will point out is too many of us, and we're just going to spend a bit of time today on prompting, write a prompt like this one. I want to analyze the Indianapolis office market, including rental rates for Class A and Class B office, the vacancy rates and the trends. Can you help me prepare a prompt to find that information? Now, you can actually go into Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT and ask this question, and it will come up with an answer for you. It'll come up with a more comprehensive prompt that's going to get you a better answer. You can also go into something like promptcowboy.ai, which is going to create prompts for everything else. Now, this is what it came back with. And it broke this down into something that I'm going to get into in a little bit, which is called the Rhodes Framework. What is your role? Act as a senior commercial research analyst. What's our objective? Our objective is to find all this information. And it breaks it all down so that we can get a comprehensive report. And this is going to give us a much, much better outline if we can put all this together in our research and our search. And then we might use a tool, and again, we're going to come back around to all this stuff. But we might use a tool like Perplexity. And in Perplexity, we might put all of this in and have it come up and do some research. And what Perplexity is going to do is not just give us answers. It's not just going to summarize it, but it's also going to give us the links and the reports for everything it pulls and how it tracks them, how it comes up with them. I'm also going to introduce through our series a lot of tools. One of them is going to be called Notebook LM. And Notebook LM is a really cool tool that allows us to input some reports, have it summarize those reports, and then up here, we can have it create something called an audio overview. This is one of the coolest tools I've ever seen used. And of course, in 6 months, there'll probably be something even better. But audio overview creates for us, and I'll start it playing, but I don't know if it'll work for us, actually creates a audio debate between two people about the subject we're talking about. You can also create a report. You can create a slide deck, and some of them are beautiful. You can create infographics, all from these reports, and you can use them in what you're going to be putting out there in both blog posts, in what you email your clients, and how you report back to your clients. All of this funnels into that and can be just fantastic to use. The other thing we're going to talk about through this series is lead intake, using a program called Zapier, and we'll actually look at a couple of competitors to Zapier that allow us to communicate and use our large language model or AI and have it actually function and do stuff on our desktop and do stuff on our behalf, where it acts as an agent. We're going to talk about Agentic AI and how it acts as an agent. So we might use this tool as an example for lead intake to automatically qualify and follow up. A new lead comes in the form of a web form or an email that comes into our email, or something comes into our CRM or LoopNet inquiry, and Zapier sends it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT summarizes the lead, tags it as a buyer, a seller, a tenant, an investor, drafts a personalized response email, might even send it automatically, and puts them into our contact management database, our CRM. We might have automated weekly market update emails, where every Friday Zapier triggers ChatGPT to pull recent stats or notes and generates a weekly market update email to everybody in your database, an investor newsletter, a social media recap. Zapier is one of the tools, there are several of them, that connect apps. ChatGPT handles the thinking and writing. Zapier handles connecting them and having them work on your behalf. And that way, if they're automated, if we can automate those boring things, we can focus more on closing deals, can't we? Now, today we're going to talk about several things. We're going to talk about a little bit of a mindset reset, let's call it, from AI as a chatbot to AI as a digital team member. I'm going to talk about the 6 leverage pillars. I'm going to go through them kind of quickly because we're going to spend a lot of time over that over the next couple of weeks. Some structured framework from competitive advantage. And then I'm going to talk about prompting, not just the Rhodes framework. I'm going to talk about a master prompt as well, but prompt engineering so we get the best output we possibly can. And that's going to be our balance today. So this is a changing your paradigm. AI is your new junior analyst. It's your research intern, and it's your marketing assistant without payroll, taxes, or administrative burden, at least until the federal government figures out a way to start taxing us for them. Email replaced the fax machine. CRM dashboards replace index cards, like I said a few minutes ago. And generative AI is going to replace manual thinking. It's just coming. Now, before anyone panics, we're not turning this into a computer science lecture. There's no coding, no algorithms, no charts with mysterious Greek letters, just business reality. And I want to simplify what AI actually is today. At its core, AI does 3 things very well, and of course, it keeps adapting and growing. But first, it does pattern recognition at scale. They can look at a massive amount of information and find trends and relationships and signals much faster than we can. Second is language understanding. It just doesn't see words. It understands meaning and context and intent. And third, it can automate repetitive cognitive work, not physical labor, but mental labor, the kind of work that doesn't require genius, just time. Now let's talk specifically about large language models like ChatGPT and Claude. Think of these less like artificial intelligence and more like extremely advanced business assistants or junior brokers. They can read documents. They can write content. They can summarize information. They can analyze data. They can explain complex topics and reason across massive amounts of information, which is exactly what most of us do all day, just a whole lot slower. So I want to translate this into commercial real estate language, because nobody here wakes up thinking, I really want to interact with artificial intelligence today. You wake up thinking about deals, 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 clients, listings, emails, more deals, and why that one tenant still hasn't returned your phone call. So let's look at examples throughout today's program. So for example, instead of manually reviewing a 120-page lease, don't you just love those? AI can summarize key terms, flag risks, and extract critical data. Instead of digging through zoning PDFs that look like they were scanned in 1997, AI can help interpret, summarize, and highlight what really matters. And instead of writing emails and proposals and offering memorandums and letters of intent, AI can at the very least draft first versions in seconds, which you can then refine and personalize. And instead of spending hours doing first pass deal analysis, AI can help you build rough financial models, stress test assumptions, and identify red flags. And when you zoom out, when you take a step back, what this really means is AI becomes part of your team. Again, it becomes your junior analyst who never sleeps, your marketing assistant who doesn't complain about revisions, and your research intern who actually reads the reports, and your transaction coordinator's helper who doesn't take vacation days. And best of all, there's no payroll taxes, no office space, no coffee breaks, and no "sorry I missed your email" excuses. But here's the most important part. AI does not replace your judgment. It doesn't replace your experience. Again, it doesn't replace your relationships. It handles the heavy lifting so you can stay focused on strategy and deal making, which is where you make your money. Think of it this way. You're going to stay the pilot. AI becomes your co-pilot. You decide where the plane goes. It just helps you to get there faster and hopefully with less turbulence. Now that we understand what AI actually is, let's talk about where it creates business value in commercial real estate. Let's start at a very high level and create a simple framework. Because AI can feel overwhelming if you think about it at 1,000 different tools. But when you organize it correctly, it becomes very manageable. I like to think about AI in commercial real estate through 6 core value pillars. These are the 6 areas where AI consistently delivers real business impact. And again, we're going to show you a lot more than this as we go through this program. And here's the important part. You don't need to master all 6 of these in one day. Most brokers start with 1 and then build from there. So here are the 6 pillars we're going to walk through today. First is creating a competitive advantage, how AI helps you to move faster, look more professional, and outperform competitors. Second is efficiency and automation, how AI gives you back time, removes repetitive work, and expands your capacity. Third is market analysis and intelligence, how AI can turn you from a data collector into a strategic advisor. Fourth is going to be enhancing your customer relationships, how AI helps you to scale personalization, improve your communication, and strengthen client trust. Fifth is marketing and visibility. AI can help you to show up consistently and build authority and stay top of mind in your market. And sixth, innovation and advanced capabilities. AI unlocks new ways to analyze deals, source opportunities, and advise clients strategically. And if you notice something interesting, these are not random benefits. They follow a progression. We're starting with saving time, then we're getting smarter, then we're becoming more strategic. I talked about the 3 levels at the beginning of this program. In other words, AI doesn't just make you more efficient, it makes you more valuable. And now that we frame the journey, let's start at the top with the very first pillar, how AI helps you to create a competitive advantage. Now, the first and most important benefit of AI in commercial real estate is that competitive advantage. Not convenience, not novelty, but advantage. Because at the end of the day, this business is very competitive, isn't it? You're competing for listings and buyers and tenants and investors, and frankly, attention. AI gives brokers an edge in some very specific ways. First is speed. AI allows you to respond to leads faster, especially if we use Agentic AI and it's watching your email and helping you. And in commercial real estate, speed matters more than most people realize. The first broker to respond often becomes the trusted broker. And second is quality. AI helps you to deliver better quality materials, cleaner proposals, stronger presentations, clearer market expectations, not because you suddenly became smarter, but because you're leveraging better tools. And third is smarter insights. Instead of presenting raw data, AI helps you to interpret it. You move from here's the information to here's what it means for your investment decision. And fourth, perception really matters. AI helps you to look more professional, more prepared, more data-driven. And in a world where clients are choosing between brokers who all claim to be the best, all claim to be experts, presentation really matters, doesn't it? And here's another big one. AI allows smaller teams, even solo brokers, to compete with much larger organizations. It's the great equalizer. One person with good AI tools can now produce output that used to require an entire support staff. So let's make this real. AI enables things like faster offering memorandum creation, more sophisticated market narratives that tell a story, not just dump numbers, better investor targeting based on asset type, strategy, and geography, stronger value propositions that clearly explain why a property is worth attention. And here's the formula I want you to remember. Speed plus quality equals market dominance. Because here's the truth. Clients don't care how you produce the work. They don't ask, did you manually build this spreadsheet? Did you personally write every paragraph of this offering memorandum? They only see the result. What they see is a faster turnaround, better analysis, more confidence, and more clarity. And confidence is contagious, isn't it? When you show up prepared, clients trust you more. When you respond quickly, clients rely on you more. When your materials look polished, clients assume competence, even if behind the scenes you had a little AI help doing the heavy lifting. And this is why AI is not a toy, it's not a novelty, it's not a shortcut. It's a competitive advantage engine. Now I want to talk about the next big value pillar, how AI doesn't just make you better, it actually gives you back your time. Every commercial broker in this meeting understands this, time. Because in this business, time is not just money, it's opportunity. Now let's be honest about where most brokers actually spend their day. Not negotiating deals, not meeting clients, not touring properties, but doing the administration work that feels suspiciously like adult homework. Most brokers lose hours every week to repetitive emails and manual data entry, formatting reports, writing listing descriptions, summarizing long documents, copying information from one system to another. It's all important work, but is it high value work? Well, not always. And this is where AI can become a productivity machine. AI can automate or dramatically speed up follow-up emails and listing descriptions and market updates. tour summaries, meeting notes, proposal drafts, contact management notes, and call summaries. In other words, all the stuff that eats your calendar but doesn't directly generate revenue. And here's where this becomes powerful. When you automate low-value tasks, you free up time for high-value activities. More client conversations, more deals reviewed, more follow-ups completed, more property tours. And let me be honest, less burnout, right? Let me ask you a dangerous question. What is 1 hour of your time really worth? I want you to think about that for just a minute. Now, another one. What if you got 5, maybe 10 hours back every single week? That's not productivity. That's not being a little more efficient. That's capacity expansion. You're not just doing the same work faster. You're increasing how much business you can actually handle. I want you to think about it this way. If AI gives you back even 1 extra hour each day, that's 5 extra hours per week. That's roughly 250 hours per day. That's 6 full work weeks of time, 6 weeks. What would 6 extra weeks of productive selling time do to your income? And here's the best part. You're not working harder. You're not staying at the office later. You're not grinding more. You're multiplying yourself. Instead of being one broker with a limited bandwidth, you become a broker with leverage. And leverage is how professionals scale. Now, we've talked about speed and time. Let's talk about how AI makes you the smarter person in the room, because the next pillar is about market. I want to elevate ourselves from data gatherers to trusted advisors. And one of the biggest opportunities that AI brings to commercial real estate is market intelligence. Because right now, a lot of brokers spend way too much time playing Google detective. You know the routine. 20 browser tabs open, sometimes I've got 50 of them open, 3 PDF reports downloading, 1 spreadsheet somewhere you forgot to save, and by the end, you're not smarter, you're just more caffeinated. AI changes that completely. AI can dramatically accelerate your market research and your demographic analysis and your zoning interpretation summaries, your economic trend analysis, competitive property comparisons, trend identification, and most importantly, turning a lot of that raw data into actual narratives that are readable and understandable. Now let's make this practical. You can ask AI to summarize things like, what are the industrial vacancy trends in your market? Or what are the retail absorption patterns? Or office flight to quality movement? That's a big thing happening right now. Cap rate compression or expansion, depending on the market. Investor demand shifts. And instead of digging through 10 reports, you get one clear, organized summary. But here's the real upgrade. AI doesn't just give you data, it helps you explain what that data really means. This is the difference between being a broker who says, here's the market report, and being a broker who says, here's what the market trend means for your acquisition strategy. Clients don't hire us for information. They hire us for our interpretation. They want answers to questions like, should I buy now or should I wait? Should I sell this asset or should I reposition it? Should I expand here or choose another submarket? And AI helps you answer those questions faster and with more clarity. Now, this is important, so listen carefully. AI does not replace your judgment. I'm pausing for dramatic effect. It doesn't replace your experience. It doesn't replace your market intuition. It doesn't replace your negotiating instincts. What it does improve is decision velocity, information clarity, and analytical depth. In other words, you stay the strategist, and AI becomes your research engine. You're still driving the car. AI just gives you GPS, some traffic updates, helps you avoid that cop that's sitting on the side of the road, and a faster engine under the hood. And when you walk into meetings armed with clear market insights and clean trend summaries and confident explanations, you stop sounding like a salesperson and you start to sound like a trusted advisor, which is what you are and you need to be. And that changes everything, because trusted advisors don't chase deals. Deals chase trusted advisors. Now let's talk about something that surprises many of us. AI doesn't weaken our relationships, it really strengthens them. And this is where AI quietly becomes a relationship superpower. Because most client relationships break down not because of bad intentions. They happen because of slow follow-up, right? Our missed communications, our information overload, and simple human bandwidth limitations. AI helps you solve that. It can assist with personalized follow-up messaging, client educational content, proposal customization, investment strategy explanations, and ongoing market updates tailored to every client's individual goals. Now, let's try and make this real. Imagine being able to automatically generate quarterly investor updates, market briefs for property owners, custom emails tailored by asset type, outreach tailored by investment strategy, without writing every single message from scratch. And here's why this matters. Clients don't remember everything you said in meetings. They remember how responsive you were, how clearly you explained things, and how informed you made them feel. When you consistently show up with timely updates and clear explanations and relevant information, you build trust, and that trust is the real currency of commercial real estate. Now, here's the part everybody worries about. Won't this make communication feel, well, robotic? Only if you let it. AI does not replace your voice. In fact, in a few minutes, we're going to talk about how to make AI sound like you, to train it to be like you and sound like you and talk like you. Doesn't replace your voice, but it does give you a starting point. You can still personalize. You can add your own tone. You can adjust the messaging. But now you're not starting from a blank screen every time. And here's a line I want you to remember. AI does not replace your relationships. It gives you more time to actually have them. Instead of spending your evening writing follow-up emails, you can spend that time calling clients, or meeting with prospects, or touring properties, or here's a radical idea, occasionally going home at a reasonable hour. And when clients experience better communication and faster responses and clearer explanations, more consistent engagement, again, they don't think this broker uses AI. They think this broker's on top of things. And that perception is priceless. Now let's talk about how AI doesn't just help you to manage relationships, it helps you attract attention and market smarter and stay visible in this crowded marketplace. Whether you realize it or not, attention is important. We are operating in an attention economy. If people don't see you, they don't think of you. If they don't think of you, they don't call you. It's TikTok generation. AI can dramatically improve your marketing output across the board. It helps you create property descriptions, social media content, email campaigns, blog posts, investor outreach, video scripts, and so much more. In other words, all the content that keeps your name showing up in front of the right people. Now let's look at practical commercial applications. I'm going to give you some examples today. AI can help you write multiple versions of the same listing descriptions. You might have an investor-focused version highlighting returns. You might have a user-focused version highlighting operations and functionality. You might have a development or a redevelopment-focused version highlighting upside and repositioning potential. It can also help you create market commentary posts, LinkedIn thought leadership content, property highlighted captions, short educational posts that position you as the market expert. And here's why this matters. Attention equals opportunity. The brokers who show up consistently get more inbound inquiries. They build stronger brand recognition, they attract better clients, and create long-term pipeline momentum. But consistency's hard, isn't it? Not because people lack ideas, but because they lack time. And this is where AI becomes powerful. AI helps brokers show up consistently and stay visible and build authority. And look everywhere as if you're everywhere without actually being everywhere. You don't need to become a content creator. You need to become a content distributor. AI handles the heavy lifting and you handle the strategy and the voice. And again, another line I want you to remember. Marketing is no longer about being creative. It's about being consistent. And AI makes consistency easy. So when you consistently publish market insights and property updates and thought leadership, client education, you stop chasing business and business starts chasing you. Now let's take a step back. Because everything we've talked about so far, speed, efficiency, research, relationships, marketing, that's actually just the beginning. And AI can move from being helpful to becoming game-changing or transformational. Again, AI doesn't just make you faster. It gives you capabilities that simply weren't practical before. And the bigger picture is what we're really seeing is an evolution of how brokers operate. Phase one is efficiency, where most of us start, using AI to save time and automate tasks and speed up workflow. Phase two is intelligence, where we're going to start using AI for analysis and market insights and research and decision support. And phase 3 is strategy. And this is maybe a higher level where AI helps you to spot opportunities faster and advise clients more effectively and position assets more strategically and think like an advisor, not just a transaction coordinator. In fact, some of our mentees right now are using AI on a daily basis to search everything new that shows up on LinkedIn, to search all new news articles, then automatically reach out to anyone who's doing something interesting that might be in need of a new commercial use. And again, this is where commercial brokers separate themselves because anybody can list a property. Not everybody can provide strategic insight. Again, AI doesn't make you less valuable. It actually pushes you up the value chain. You move from information provider to that strategic, trusted advisor, and that's where fees are defended. That's where loyalty is built, and that's where long-term careers are really created. So I'm going to go through a few examples of advanced ways that AI is being used in commercial real estate. Starting with lease abstraction. Instead of manually reviewing stacks of leases, AI can extract key terms, flag risks, summarize rent structures, and organize data for underwriting and offering memorandums. And by the way, when you put anything in and ask it for a lease abstraction as an example, it will pull out dates, but we're going to talk a little bit about prompting in a few minutes. And if you don't tell it to look for something like if the end date falls on a holiday or a weekend, it gets moved to a certain other date. If you don't let it know that, it may not look for it. It may just give you a date. So you've got to be careful when you're using AI as well. We can also use it for predictive site selection. AI can analyze traffic patterns and demographics and competitor locations and consumer behavior, helping identify which sites have the highest probability of success, not just the best gut feeling. It also helps us with first pass underwriting. AI can help generate preliminary financial models, stress test assumptions, and compare deal scenarios. So you spend your time on the best opportunities, not on every opportunity. Lead intelligence. AI can help you identify likely sellers based on ownership duration, on equity positions, on market cycles, and match buyers to opportunities based on acquisition patterns and criteria. And one of the most visual examples is to generate design and visualization. AI can create conceptual redevelopment images, before and after visuals, tenant improvement concepts, which helps clients see potential, not just square footage. Now, let me go through each of these with a little bit more detail. And starting with one of the most painful tasks in commercial real estate, which is lease abstraction. Now, you know the drill. Someone hands you a stack of leases for a retail center, and suddenly your weekend plans disappear. You're hunting for rent schedules and escalations and options and CAM structures and tenant improvement allowances, and 6 hours later, you're questioning your life choices. So here's what AI can now extract automatically. Rent and escalation schedules, term and renewal options, common area maintenance or CAM structures, tenant improvement allowances, renewal provisions. So instead of manually screening every page, AI can summarize this into a clean, organized output. And here's why this actually matters to your business. It means faster underwriting, fewer mistakes, cleaner summaries for buyers, and stronger data inside your offering memorandums. Look at the numbers on this slide. What used to take us 6 hours manually can now be done in roughly 20 minutes with AI assistance. And that's not just time savings. That's deal velocity. It's faster listings, it's quicker buyer response, it's more deals reviewed every week. Now remember, you're not handling final legal responsibility over to AI. You're using it for a first pass extraction. You still verify. You still apply judgment. Now you're starting from organized intelligence instead of raw chaos. Translation: less grunt work, more deal work. Let's talk about something that makes clients very happy: picking winning locations. Traditionally, site selection has been a mix of experience and market knowledge, and let's be honest, an educated gut feeling. AI adds a new layer of intelligence. It can analyze things like traffic data, patterns, counts, peak times, demographics like income levels and density and consumer behavior, competitor locations where the market is saturated and where it's underserved, and consumer patterns, how people actually move and buy in real life. And this changes the conversation. You're no longer saying, I think this is a good site. You're saying, here's the data that supports why this location performs better. And instead of saying, I found a site for you, You can now say, I can justify why this site wins. Now, for retail expansion clients, AI helps provide data-driven recommendations for multi-unit growth strategies. For franchise buyers, it helps you to validate site selection and reduce investment risk. For developers, it supports highest and best use decisions using market intelligence. And for QSR and medical tenants, it helps analyze traffic flow, demographics, and accessibility to increase success probability. So what clients really want isn't just a location. They want confidence. They want to reduce their risk. They want to know they're making the right decision. So when you walk into meetings with maps and data overlays and market insights, predictive analytics, you stop sounding like somebody who just found a building that looks great, and you start sounding like somebody who understands business strategy. And again, this is where your value shifts. This is where loyalty increases and where, well, your fees become easier to defend, right? All right, let's talk about one of the biggest time traps to real estate: underwriting every deal like it's going to close, and they aren't going to close. We've all done it. You spend hours building spreadsheets, running assumptions, only to realize later this deal was never realistic in the first place. And this is where AI really shines. AI can help with building rough pro formas, stress testing rent assumptions, running scenario comparisons, identifying red flags early. And we'll do a few of these in our next session, of course. But this part is important, so let me frame it correctly. This is not final underwriting. I'm going to call it deal triage. It answers one critical question: which opportunities deserve my serious time? So instead of treating every deal equally, AI helps you to quickly separate good deals, bad deals, and this sounded better on paper deals. And that means less wasted analysis, faster decision-making, and more time spent on deals that may actually have a chance of closing. And when you can evaluate more opportunities faster, you increase your odds of landing the right ones. Now, let's talk about something everybody cares about: finding deals before your competitors do. So here's the simple equation: AI plus data equals smarter prospecting. This turns cold prospecting into warm, targeted outreach. AI can help you identify likely sellers by analyzing things like how long they've owned the property, what their equity position indicators are, the market cycle timing signals. In other words, who's owned the property long enough, built up enough equity, and is statistically more likely to sell. Now, for any of you who use Reonomy or Prospect Now, it's the same concept they use to find likely sellers. Now, on the buyer side, AI can help you identify buyer profiles by analyzing investment criteria matching. What are their acquisition patterns? What are gaps in their portfolio that we might be able to fill? So instead of blasting the same deal to everybody, you're matching the right opportunity to the right investor. And that means a higher response rate, better conversations, and fewer thanks, but I'm not interested emails. That's how prospecting becomes strategic instead of just noisy. We talk about one of the most visually powerful applications of AI. We're going to call it generative design and visualization. It's where AI helps people see potential, not just existing conditions. AI can help you create conceptual redevelopment visuals, show potential build-outs, generate before and after renderings, and visualize tenant improvements. So why does this matter? Because unfortunately, most of us struggle to visualize space. We can't easily imagine what this could become. And when you show visuals, you shorten the sales cycle. You reduce uncertainty and you make opportunities feel real. So instead of saying, trust me, this is going to look great, you can say, here, this is what it could look like. And that's powerful for developers, value-add investors, retail tenants, office users, pretty much anybody making decisions. Now, here's an example of an image I uploaded to, and this is just ChatGPT, last night. It's a former dollar store that's currently vacant. A client looked at it a few days ago and said, oh, it needs so much work. It really just needs cleaning. So we asked ChatGPT to put back in the shelves as if we're an operating dollar store, and this is what it did. Now, doesn't that make it look so much easier to sell? And frankly, all it is cleaning up the floor, replacing some of the lights, and putting shelving back. And we're changing the entire dynamic of how it looks. So, talking about why this works, because here's a truth we don't like to admit in commercial real estate. People still buy with emotion and vision, even in commercial investment real estate. Yeah, spreadsheets matter, returns matter, but confidence and clarity matters too. Visualization does three important things. First, it speeds up decisions. When people can see the outcome clearly, they hesitate less. They move faster. They feel more confident. And second, it improves marketing. Professional visuals attract more qualified prospects. They increase engagement and they make your listing stand out. And third, it really strengthens your presentations. Compelling imagery makes proposals more memorable, more persuasive, and more likely to get approved. So when you combine visuals with data, you appeal to both logic and emotion. And that's when deals stop feeling abstract and start feeling actionable. Now, before anybody leaves today thinking they need to rebuild their entire business by Thursday, well, maybe Friday, I want to reset your expectations. AI is not an all or nothing. You don't flip a switch and suddenly become a tech company. You start small. You start with one task. You pick one repetitive thing that you already hate doing, like emails or summary descriptions or notes, and you build one workflow. And then you integrate AI into one part of your daily routine, not everything, just one. And then you create one improvement. You measure the impact. Did it save you time? Did it improve quality? Did it reduce friction? And then you build from there. Nobody mastered Excel in a day either. And somehow we all survived that. So think about this as progress, not perfection. And again, let's take a step back and look at a bigger picture. What you're really building is an AI toolkit, not just one tool. On the market intelligence side, AI is going to help you with those market trend summaries, zoning research, economic outlook. And on the transactional support side, lease abstraction, underwriting deals, offering memorandum creation. And on our prospecting and growth side, we're going to identify likely sellers, we're going to match buyers, and we're going to create personalized outreach. And for marketing and branding, property marketing, social content, investor communication. Now, this is important. You don't need to use all of this at once, but over time, it becomes your operating system. And it's how top producers can scale without burning out. Now, I'm going to back up to what we talked about at the very beginning, which is prompting. And I want to start with a simple idea that most of us today are using AI as if it's Google with better grammar. They ask a question, they get an answer, and then they move on. That's not where the real value is. The real opportunity is to build something much more powerful, an AI that actually thinks like your best broker on their best day. The one who asks better questions, sees risk before others do, and maybe most importantly, actually follows up. And if we're being honest, that last part alone might justify the entire investment. What I want you to walk away with today is how to build that system. Now, we're going to start by calling it a master prompt. Although depending on your mood, we might have to call it a primary prompt. Just sounds slightly less intimidating and slightly more billable. So what is this really? We want to create something that programs the AI to work with us. And then we're going to start talking to it after we input that master prompt. So at its core, this is not just a prompt, it's an opening framework. Most people interact with AI transactionally. They ask, it answers, end of story. But the brokers who are going to win with this technology are doing something different. They're building AI that behaves like a trusted advisor. That means it doesn't just respond, it thinks. It doesn't just generate, it evaluates. And it doesn't just sound good, it actually helps you to make better decisions. And to do that, we need structure. And I like to think of this in 4 parts. First is what are the operating rules, how the AI should behave. Second is our broker profile, who the AI represents. Who are we and how is it going to represent us? Third is our voice and style. How is it going to sound? And fourth is going to be our agentic behavior, what makes it powerful. Now, if you get these 4 right, you don't just have an AI, you've got leverage. Now, I'm going to start with the operating rules. The first section might be the most important and also the most overlooked. It's what I call the personality governor, because without it, you don't get a smart assistant, you get a very confident intern. And we've all worked with that intern. Operating rules define how AI behaves. For example, it should be structured and actionable. It should tell you what to do next, and it should prioritize real-world application over theory. But just as important is how it handles uncertainty. Because in commercial real estate, we are constantly making decisions with imperfect information. So instead of guessing, the AI should ask when something is missing, state its assumptions, and give you a range of outcomes. In other words, we're not trying to make AI sound smart, we're trying to make it think responsibly. Let me back up and explain this a little bit differently. You've probably heard that sometimes you'll ask a question of an AI and it hallucinates an answer. And it hallucinates an answer because it wants to please you, but it doesn't have an answer for you. So when we put something in, we start with a master prompt that is going to tell it that if it doesn't have the answer, to tell us that. We also want it to kick back what our assumptions are, what the AI's assumptions are based on what we gave it, to give us a range of outcomes and tell us when it's missing some information. We want all of that, and that's, again, going to be our operating rules, our personality governor. And this is where things get very practical. I want a default deliverable format. One of the biggest gaps I see is that people are using AI to generate raw text and then spending time turning that into something usable. That's backward. Instead, your AI should be trained to produce finished work, client-ready outputs. So instead of asking, can you analyze this property? You're really asking, create a broker opinion of value, draft an offering memorandum, write a client email, summarize this deal for an investor. This shifts AI from being a writing tool to being a production engine. And once you make that shift, you don't just save time, you start scaling yourself. Section 2 is our broker profile, the identity layer. It's where it gets really interesting. Because up until now, we've been talking about how the AI behaves. This section defines who it is. And the more specific you are here, the better your outcome and your outputs become. If you don't define a profile, the AI defaults to generic. And generic advice in commercial real estate is usually worth exactly what you paid for it. So here's what you're defining. You're defining your identity. What's your market and your niche? What's your core promise? And what success actually looks like for you and your clients. Because an AI helping a retail lease broker in a suburban market should not sound or think the same as one advising institutional multifamily investors. And this is what turns AI from a tool into something that actually represents you. And when you get this right, it starts to feel less like software and more like an extension of how you think. And that's what we're trying to put together. We're trying to create that identity layer to make it something that's really going to help you. Now, section 3 is voice and style. And this section might sound softer, but it's really critical because this is where the AI stops sounding like AI and starts sounding like you. And whether we like it or not, in this business, how something is said matters almost as much as what is said. When I teach negotiation, we get down to the nitty-gritty of how exactly to respond to somebody, the tonality, the words we use, everything's critical, right? So here what you're defining is the tone, the vocabulary, and the personality. Are you going to be confident, direct, insightful, with just enough personality to make it feel human? And yes, this is where you can inject a little dry humor if you have some, because if your AI sounds like a legal disclaimer, your clients are going to treat it like one. At the same time, we're very intentional about what we want to avoid. We don't want a robotic tone. We don't want a buzzword soup. And definitely no guaranteed returns unless you really enjoy regulatory conversations. What we're really building here is a default persona. We're building a persona for a trusted advisor who's seen it all before, solved it before, and maybe knows where a few of the bodies are buried, figuratively usually. Think about your best client conversation. Was it formal or was it real? I want you to consider that because that's what we're trying to get the AI to do and act like. Now, sections 4 and 5 are who is our audience and what are their pain points. We shift from who we are to who we serve. Because great real estate advice in commercial real estate is never generic. It's specific to the type of client, the type of deal, and what the client's actually trying to accomplish. So we define our audience. Value-added investors looking for an upside, owner users solving operational needs, developers creating something new, core and opportunistic buyers across the risk spectrum. But here's the more important piece. What are they actually worried about? Not what they say in a meeting, but what they're thinking on the drive home. Things like, am I overpaying? Will this actually lease up? What happens if the market shifts? What's the downside? Because if your AI doesn't understand those questions, it can't deliver meaningful advice. At best, it gives you information. At worst, it gives you confidence in perhaps the wrong direction. Now, obviously, I can't see you, but a quick show of hands. How many of you had a client ask, what would you do if this were you? I hear that all the time, don't you? And that's the bar. That's what your AI needs to be able to answer. Would you do this deal? Section 6 is thinking models. Now, again, this is all part of the master prompt. We haven't even gotten to asking questions yet. This is what we're going to put in so we can program that AI to think like us and to help us. Now, thinking models, this is where the AI stops being a tool and starts thinking like an advisor. Because the real value in our business is not information, it's our judgment. And judgment truly comes from frameworks. So here we're teaching the AI how to think. We're going to use 4 areas here. First is risk versus return. Every recommendation should be filtered through that lens. Second is highest and best use. Not what the property is, but what could the property be? Third is market cycle positioning. Is this a value add play, a core hold, or maybe an opportunistic bet? And then scenario thinking. Best case, base case, worst case. I do this in Argus all the time when I'm teaching Argus. Because deals don't fail in the best case. They fail in the one nobody modeled. And I love this simple decision filter at the bottom. Does this increase net operating income? Does it reduce risk? Does it improve exit value? And if the answer is no, we should at least pause before telling a client that it's a great idea, right? In section 7, agentic behavior. This is where everything comes together. Because up until now, we've been designing how the AI behaves, thinks, and communicates. This is what makes it act. And this is, of course, an agentic AI. Agentic AIs don't just answer questions, it moves the process forward. So instead of here's your analysis, good luck, it does this. First, analyze the request. Break that request into components. Then it underwrites it. Then it runs the numbers. It identifies risks. It flags missing data. Then it drafts the investor summary, the negotiating points, the client emails, and finally it proposes the next actions. And it does it all automatically. No prompting required. That last part is the shift, because now you're not just getting answers, you're getting momentum. So let me ask you this. How much of your business is lost, not because of bad advice, but because of slow follow-up? Now, this is where agentic AI really changes the game. If you put all this together, rules, identity, voice, audience, thinking, and action, these are the 7 sections that I'm talking about. You don't have a better prompt, you've got a full system. And the final piece is about consistency, because even if your AI is smart, and they all are, if the output is all over the place, it's very hard to use. So what we're doing here is giving it a default structure. Every response should follow a predictable flow. Start with TLDR. By the way, in old person speak, that means too long, didn't read, which is basically how most clients read our emails. So we've got to give them the bottom line first, and then the details underneath. Because most clients, and let's be honest, most of us, want the answer before the explanation. And then move into key insights where it actually matters. And then a detailed breakdown for anybody who wants to go deeper. And then risks and considerations, because no deal would exist without trade-offs. And then recommended actions. What do we actually do next? Now, all of this is our default output structure. Do we want this as a PDF? Do we want this as a Word document? And how do we want it structured? So as we're putting all this together, this is still all in our master prompt. We want to be able to show them how we want this to actually come out. What this does is turn the AI from something you have to interpret into something you can actually use immediately. So how many of you have actually copied something from AI and then spend 5 minutes completely rewriting it before sending it? Well, this fixes that, and that's the idea. So now we take everything we just talked about and we turn it into something practical. And that's your ready to use, or maybe primary, prompt. And the key idea here is simple. You're not starting from scratch every time, you're building a foundation that you can plug into any model and customize with your profile. What I want you to notice isn't just the content, it's the instructures. Be structured, be practical, ask questions when needed, state assumptions. Let me say this again. When we're giving instructions, when we're giving this master prompt, before we start communicating with it, we want it structured. We want it practical. We want it to ask us questions rather than hallucinate. We want it to ask us questions to get it clarified. We want it to come back to us and state assumptions so that we can make sure it's on the same page that we are. We want it to provide risks and trade-offs and deliver client-ready outputs. Now, this is how you guide the AI to behave like the advisor we want to be. And I love the reminder at the bottom of this screen. If the request is vague, ask first, because a great advisor doesn't guess confidently and then get it wrong very publicly. And unfortunately, AI is good at doing exactly that. Unless you tell it, don't do that. Now, for this master prompt section, or we'll call it primary prompt section, I'm going to leave you with this. Most of us are still using AI like Google. Ask questions, get answers, and move on. But the people who are going to win with this technology are building something different. They're building AI that thinks like their best broker on their best day, with perfect follow-up and obviously no need for coffee. And if you've been in this business long enough, you know that last one might be the most unrealistic part of this entire presentation. But everything else is very real and very possible. The opportunity here isn't just to be more efficient. It's to be more consistent, more thoughtful, and ultimately more valuable to your clients. So the real question isn't whether AI is going to change how we work. It's whether we're going to design how it works with us or let someone else do it for us. And I'd strongly recommend the first option. Now, before we break for today, I want to hit one more thing, which is what I promised in the very beginning. And I want to introduce how we start asking questions and get the right answers out of AI. And I'm going to call it the Rhodes Framework. This is very important as a skill when working with AI, not just the tool and the software, but the prompt. Just like we went through the master prompt to program it to start communicating with us, everything we do has to follow a pattern so it gives us the best output we can get. Because AIs don't fail, unclear instructions fail. And this is why we use a simple framework called the Rhodes Framework. And if you look online, you're going to see lots of different frameworks. I think this is probably the best. It's simple. It's structure creates clarity, and clarity produces better results. So RODES, starting with what role is the AI assuming? That's R, your role. What's your objective? In other words, what do you want the AI to accomplish? You want to provide details for context. Show an example of what a good output looks like, and then confirm it understands what you're asking before it makes something up, before it hallucinates. That is the whole process. Again, first is our role, R. You tell the AI who it should be. Act as a commercial real estate analyst. Act as a commercial leasing broker. Act as a marketing director. Tell it what it should be. Tell it what the role is. Second is our objective. Oh, what exactly do you want to accomplish? And a weak objective is to analyze this deal. Here's a deal, analyze this deal. It's too broad, and it can lead to poor results because success isn't defined. A strong objective might be evaluate whether this deal meets a 7% cap rate target and highlight the major risks of this deal. Be very specific and ask for clear deliverables. That's our objective. Number 3 is our D, our details. And this is where most people underprompt. The more context you provide, the less guessing AI has to do, and less guessing means dramatically better answers that will require minimal revision. Now, part of this we're going to be able to put into some of the types of AIs and large language models, where it allows us to upload a lot of information that we can compare with. And that leads us to E, which is examples. Show, don't tell. If you can show AI what good looks like, it's going to replicate the style and the format. You could say, format this like an offering memorandum executive summary. Use bullet points like this attached example. Match this writing tone. And again, many AIs now allow us to import these examples and state that you want it to follow this example and follow that format and so on. Match the writing tone. And then finally is S, our sense check, your safety net. You ask AI to confirm, summarize what you understand, list assumptions you're making, and ask me questions before proceeding. So if we put this entire thing together and we send it into the AI, it's going to, before it actually runs the entire process, it's going to summarize what it understands, list the assumptions, and if it has any questions, if it's missing anything, it'll ask us. This prevents bad assumptions or wrong outputs. It's that whole garbage in, garbage out scenario. It eliminates that. So let's look at the roads in practice. RODES, define the persona. Act as a commercial real estate marketing director. Objective, create a high conversion email teaser for a 50,000 square foot warehouse. Details, targeting e-commerce tenants, $12 per square foot triple net, 24-foot clear span heights. Examples. Format this like the attached successful listing from last month. And sense check. Summarize your plan and ask me 3 clarifying questions first. Now, we'll do several of these over the next couple of sessions to show you how this works in practice for all sorts of different uses. Now, all right, I'm going to give you, I think, 2 examples just to show you what this looks like in the real world, because this is where prompting goes from theory to deal making. Here's a commercial real estate example. Instead of typing something vague like analyze this deal, we're going to give the AI structure. Again, first is our role. We tell the AI, act as a senior commercial real estate investment analyst, specializing in value-add multifamily. Now, why does this matter? Because now the AI is thinking like an investor, not a blogger, not a student, not a generic internet advice. Next, objective. And again, we're very specific. We say evaluate whether this property meets a 7.5% stabilized cap rate target and identify major underwriting risks. This tells AI exactly what success looks like. Then we're going to provide deal details: price, NOI, market cap rates, renovation budget, project upside, hold period. This is the data the AI needs to actually be useful. Bad inputs produce bad outputs. Good inputs produce smart analysis. Next is our examples. We tell the AI how we want the output formatted. We want an executive summary, bullet points, clear conclusions, and now we're controlling structure and readability. And finally, again, our sense check. This is where too many of us miss. We tell the AI, summarize what you understand, and ask questions before the final analysis. Now, this is your insurance policy. It prevents that AI from confidently being wrong. And we're going to tie it all together. So instead of hoping AI guesses what you want, you're giving it professional instructions. And as you do more and more of these, you get used to using this Rhodes framework. It makes it easier and easier, and you get better and better output. This is exactly how you're going to use AI for deal screening, market research, creating offering memorandums. We're going to do a whole session on offering memorandums, lease abstraction summaries, and client presentations. And here's the most important part. You're not outsourcing judgment. You're accelerating your analysis. Now, I want to switch gears for just a minute from analysis to something everybody here does constantly anyway, and that's marketing. Now, again, most of us just put in, write a description. Write a listing description, and then they're surprised when it sounds generic. So let's try and apply that Rhodes method and watch the difference. First, role. We tell AI, act as a commercial real estate marketing director, specializing in investment property promotion. Now it's thinking like a professional marketer, not just a writer. Next is your objective. We got to be clear. Create a high conversion listing description and an email teaser to attract qualified investment buyers. Not just content, conversion focused content. Then we feed it the actual property details: the square footage, net operating income, lot size, clear height, dock door, sprinklers, excess land, target audience, tone. This is how you make marketing accurate and relevant. And by the way, we can put this into our prompt, or we can upload it or attach information on the property as an attachment. And then we control the format. Format this like an offering memorandum executive summary, and write the email teaser short and high impact. Now, again, we're controlling the structure and style. And finally, we're going to do our sense check. We ask AI to confirm who the audience is, what the key selling points are before writing anything. Now, this does 2 powerful things. First, it does save us time, and second, improves the quality of the output. You can now generate investor-focused version, a user-focused version, a social media version, an email version, all from the same property data. And instead of spending an hour writing ad copy, you spend 5 minutes refining it. And that's leverage, and this is exactly what we'll practice getting into our second session in this series. I want to switch gears for just a minute, because this next part applies to everybody in this session. You've really got 2 options. Option A is just keep working the same way you always have, while competitors quietly gain leverage. Option B is to embrace AI as a competitive advantage and multiply your capacity. No drama, no hype. This is just reality. The brokers who win in the next decade, and I'm hoping you're going to be around for that period of time in this business, won't be the ones who resist change. They'll be the ones who leverage it. And leverage is how professionals stay ahead of cycles, isn't it? I want to close with this, because it's probably the most important message today, although I think I've said its most important message today 5 times. This is not about replacing brokers. It's about building the next generation of commercial real estate professionals. Now, we talked about the 6 leverage pillars. You've seen some real world cases. You've seen what's possible. And now you're ready to move from theory to practice. This isn't about just becoming more technical. It's about becoming more effective and more strategic, and let's be honest, more scalable. And if we do this right, you won't just survive the next market cycle, you're going to dominate it. So let's build your AI-powered competitive advantage together. Again, thanks for joining me. I'm Loren Keim, your real estate professor and your personal real estate coach, and I hope to see you in the next session.